Astronauts land on Mars where humans existed 1 billion years ago. Humanity sends the first space expedition to Mars, which dies mysteriously. The rescuers struggle to reach the planet and discover an amazing thing that reveals the secret of the emergence of humans and life on Earth.
I'm not sure about anything anymore.
Astronaut Luke Graham's home is hosting a party for his upcoming mission to Mars, bringing together the families of his friends and colleagues. The party brought together families and friends, including his closest friend Jim Connell, who, unfortunately due to his wife's illness, could not join the expedition. Friends wished Hatch a happy flight and remembered the woman who died. She was happy that the mission would take place in 2020. The first manned mission successfully reaches Mars, and soon people discover near the base a strange white formation in the Cydonia region, which they suspect is a squeeze on the surface of the water column, useful for the future colonization of the planet. After relaying news of the discovery to the command center aboard the World Space Station, the 4 crew members head to the location of the formation for further investigation. Arriving at the location, the men see a tall mountain, which radar identifies as mechanical. Here the astronauts begin to hear a strange low sound, but believe it is just interference from their Mars rover, and when they add power to the equipment, the sand under their feet begins to move. At first this doesn't cause much excitement. The astronauts stay put, looking at the mountain over which the sand vortex is growing. Soon, however, the vortex begins to behave like an intelligent being, and it appears to be considering the astronauts. It then attacks them, killing 3 astronauts in a matter of seconds, and then emits powerful electromagnetic pulses, destroying most of the electronics aboard the ship. When the vortex finally calms down, a huge human face emerges from beneath a layer of sand. The space station receives an indecipherable message from Luke, but they don't understand what happened or if he is alive. The management understands that it is necessary to organize a rescue expedition, but it is not clear how it can be realized. Jim suggests how the problem can be solved, because he has been developing plans for evacuation from Mars. The station commander agrees to consider it, but opposes Jim's participation in the expedition because the man refused to take the tests and left the project. Woody Blake insists on including his friend in the crew, because his refusal of the first flight would be because of his wife's illness. He was very worried about it. In addition, it was he and his wife studied and designed the flight to Mars, so Jim knows more about this planet than anyone else, which will certainly help in the rescue mission. After listening to his arguments, the commander agrees, and the rescue ship with a crew of 4 sets off for Mars. In addition to Woody and Jim, the crew includes specialist Terry, Woody's wife, and Phil. Along the way, Jim becomes kindly jealous of Woody and Terry's love, watching how affectionate they are toward each other. Soon, the surface of Mars can be seen from the ship, and the men see that the expedition's camp is intact and even discern 3 grave sites near the structure. It is unclear what happened to Luke. Perhaps he had no one to bury him. Soon, a magnetic storm hits the planet, and the astronauts can no longer see anything on the surface. Command authorizes the landing. Woody goes to please Jim and catches him watching a family movie, from which it becomes clear that his wife was also an astronaut, and together with her husband, dreamed of a flight to Mars. The ship prepares to orbit the red planet, but then a meteor shower appears on the way, and one of the meteorites pierces the hull, injuring Phil's hand. The station begins to lose oxygen, and Woody goes into outer space to find and patch the breach. But the breach is so small that it can't be found visually, and then Terry squeezes out juice that floats to the gap and seeps through, indicating the breach. However, the crew fails to notice another breach in the fuel system of one of the main engines. When the engine ignites, the fuel forced into space explodes, destroying the ship. The crew is left with no choice but to quickly don spacesuits and go into outer space, hoping to maneuver to the supply module that was left in orbit from the first expedition. They find the module, but it is traveling in a low orbit for them and too fast. Woody uses all the fuel in his rocket pack to fly to the module and secures a tether on it. However, he himself is unable to stop his flight and continues to fall toward Mars. Terry, wanting to save her husband, disconnects her tether and rushes after him. But Woody, realizing that if she continues to save him, she will not have enough fuel to return and the woman will face imminent death, he removes his helmet and dies. A weeping Terry watches her husband's body fall to the planet before returning to the rest of the crew. 3 astronauts use the module to land on the planet. Although the module will no longer be able to take off, the rescuers took with them new circuit boards for the first expedition's ship to replace the burned ones. Arriving at the first expedition's base, they explore it but find no one, although the living quarters are completely intact. Jim goes to the greenhouse and is amazed to see that all the plants feel fine. Everything is functioning and working. The astronaut takes off his helmet and in the reflection on the water sees Luke with an axe attacking him, not believing it's a real person but ignorance. The man is captured, and only then does he begin to believe that they have come for him. Upon learning of Woody's death, he cries. The astronauts realize that Luke's sanity is not all right, as he has spent over a year on Mars all alone. After recovering from the sand vortex attack, he buries the dead and studies the strange structure. He shows the rescue team a videotape of the find that cost his crew members their lives, and the men are stunned to realize they have a human face in front of them. And then he shows his most important find, a recording of a sound he heard near the structure. After months of analyzing this sound, he realized that the sound was a diagram of human DNA on a rectangular coordinate system in space. Someone left it there as their signature, but later, remembering how Phil created the DNA, Jim realizes that it's not a signature, but a kind of text that the creators left in place of a lock guarding the entrance to somewhere. It turns out that the first expedition died because they answered incorrectly. Instead of completing the DNA by proving they were human, the astronauts aimed radar at the face. Because the answer was wrong, the structure's security system destroyed the intruders. The team is sent to the face, but first they send a robot and send a signal through it with the augmented human DNA elements. An entrance appears in the face, from which a bright light shines out. Everyone except Phil, who has to fix the ship, goes to the face and gives Phil the command to take off at exactly the right time, even if they don't come back. Afterward, the men enter the White Room. The door closes, and the astronauts lose contact with the ship. Soon the room fills with Earth's atmosphere, and the astronauts take off their helmets. Immediately, another airlock opens behind them, and after passing through it, the astronauts find themselves in a dark room where they see a huge three-dimensional projection of the solar system. Then a hologram of a Martian appears, explaining to the humans that in the past a huge asteroid hit Mars, destroying the planet's ecosystem, which is very similar to Earth. The Martians had to evacuate the entire race to other star systems. They also sent a single ship from Mars to a neighboring Earth that contained the embryos of future life. Hundreds of millions of years later, multicellular plants and animals appeared on the planet. Many years passed and the new forms formed from the DNA sent evolved to become humans, who had to return home to Mars one day for the structure to recognize them as the descendants of civilization. The hologram extends a hand to the Earthman, letting him know that they belong to the same species, and then disappears, and the hatch of a spaceship opens in front of the humans, on which one of them can fly to the creators. In the meantime, Phil summons his friends to no avail and prepares to take off. The humans hear his warning that the storm is getting stronger and will soon cover the ship. They realize that they must hurry, but Jim refuses to return to Earth when the opportunity to fly to another galaxy presents itself. He is sure that this is an invitation from their ancestors, and he was born just to go to a new world. Jim says goodbye to his friends. Terry gives him a small rocket pendant as a memento that once belonged to Woody. And the astronauts leave, at which time Phil repeats the calls, but getting no response, reaches his finger out for the start button, delaying the decision, and Jim gets into the light elevator, which lifts him into the Martian ship. The only way the two remaining astronauts manage to reach the ship due to the sandstorm that has begun is because Phil, against orders, delays takeoff. Meanwhile, Jim steps onto the circle marked out in front of him, and suddenly realizes he can't move. The room fills with water. The man prepares himself for the fact that he is about to choke, and holds his breath, but still takes a breath and begins to breathe in the water. He smiles as he realizes that this is a new life form. Images of his past life flash before his eyes, and it is as if the man is saying goodbye to everyone once again. And his crew, having taken off, watches in the porthole as the Martian ship with Jim flies away with great speed towards a distant galaxy and wishes him a happy journey. Very good science fiction of yesteryear that leaves a pleasant impression after watching it, despite the scientific inconsistencies. The movie is inspiring and makes you think about the origin of humanity. Maybe we really are descended from some ancient race. Write in the comments what you think about this movie.